again. Hang on, I gotta clear out a guest from their hiding spot. So sorry to disrupt you, Momo. I know that's got to be just awful. But we're back for another episode of Laying It Down with Big D. I, of course, am your host, Andrew Big D Morrow. And today, I have got a man of many titles here. But let's start with Copenhagen Wolves org owner. He's also been a player in advanced and on LAN teams. You've known him on Might, which just recently dissolved. Now playing for Take Flyte, if I saw correctly. We know that they're the boys on the show. I got Jared Habib with me on the show. How are we doing today, Jared?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm freaking lovely, dude. I get to hang out on a beautiful Saturday and just chat Counter-Strike with the most passionate Counter-Strikers in the world.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, we're gonna go back in time to start things out here. We're gonna get the Jared lore first here, and then we'll kind of talk pretty broadly about LAN and other things after that. But take us back to your earliest memories of gaming and how they took you to Counter-Strike.
I was a big console gamer, so COD 4. MW2, World at War, all console gamer. And then I'm in the same office that I was in as a kid, because me and my brother used to share an office here, and then we eventually transitioned. I think one Christmas when we were 12 or 13 or something like that. My dad had maybe we were 14 or something like that. Gotten both of us PCs, so then we started doing that. And then originally my PC gaming started with more so of Gary's Mod. My brother hosted a Dark RP Gary's Mod server, so I put in a lot of hours on Gary's Mod and a lot of hours playing Dark RP. And then, interestingly enough, we've had some very close family friends that we always play sports with, hung out with, always were around, and we transitioned into playing a lot of games with them, especially a lot of PC games, and we would play different things. And then he was like, hey, you got to try Counter-Strike. I was like, what the hell is that? And this is 2014, 2015. Then I vividly remember queuing up the first game, and we got the OG Dust, not Dust 2, the Dust 1. That was our first game, and I remember that. And then from there, we kind of played a lot of games. We played oh god, I think the years kind of blend together, but we played CS for a while, then we stopped playing together as much, not because anything happened, but because of school, stuff like that. So I kind of stayed on the CS grind. And then after that, DayZ, Arma 2, all of those things kind of came out, H1Z1, and we were playing those games heavy. And then I always had a separate passion for Counter-Strike. And then when he went off to college a couple of years later, I didn't really have too many people to play all of these other games with, so I went kind of back to what I knew, which was Counter-Strike. Played Counter-Strike heavy for a couple of years, and then I actually took a break when Black Ops 4 came out, and me and my friends played, my new friends at the time played Black Ops 4 to the brink. We played that game so much. We were playing every single day, trying to do league play and stuff like that. And then from there, I probably stopped playing CS for a year. And I got back into it and reconnected with a couple of my other buddies that I had made in the time playing Counter-Strike, who I'm still good friends with today. And then they asked me to sub in one of their old ESEA teams in IM or something like that. And I was like, from that moment, the bug kind of came back. I was playing, I stopped for a while playing COD, and then starting to get a little older. And then I was like, you know what? I remember why I love CS now. And then from there, it kind of just started a trend where I played with them for a couple of seasons, kind of hung out, and then it got to a point where I was like, I'm getting to a point where I can compete with some of these guys, so let me see how far I can really take it. And that's when I started trying out for the advanced teams, and that kind of started the trend that I became on to today to get me to where I am.
So you got your 10-year veteran coin then?
Yeah, I do have a 10-year veteran coin. Yeah, exactly.
They're gonna need to put a 20-year veteran coin out here soon, because it's weird. It's weird playing this game for this long.
Yeah, I got it last year, I think. The 10-year vet coin. Yeah, or maybe even before that. Yeah, long time ago. We're all
And
getting old.
also, yeah, also chalk up another category. So there's now with your story, there's officially three categories of where people start in Counter Strike, and for a while there, the first two uh, were the answers were, oh, I had an older brother that played, and I
I
had
mean,
to get better,
that kind of like
or
is similar
did that?
category. Like
Yeah,
we all
it's
we all game together, so they're like, "Yo, we got to try Counter Strike," and then like I didn't really have that competitiveness with my brother on CS. I do have a brother who owns he's a co-owner of Wolves with me, um, and I didn't necessarily have like to be better than him at Counter Strike thing because like I was the one who grinded Counter Strike when I started playing at the beginning, and he more so was focused on like other games, stuff like that. Plus, he was a couple years older than me, so he went and like started college before me, was working before me, stuff like that. So kind of gave me that extra time to get a step ahead of him, you know.
Yeah. Well, and the the other categories that come up as well are people played Minecraft and then got into CS:GO. And then the other weird one that has been up here is now Gary's mod seems to be
Yeah,
a gateway into Counter-Strike.
I mean, I played every game though. Like I played all of the games. Like I said, H1Z1, DayZ, Arma 2, the Arma 2 mods. I played the GTA's. Played the. We like really played everything. You know, I got like a couple hundred hours on like every game. You can see on on my Steam profile. We kind of just messed around and we just did whatever was like, kind of like hot in the moment. You know, we used to watch a lot of Twitch and a lot of streamers, and they were all playing like when DayZ came out, everybody's playing DayZ. When H1Z1 was out, everyone's playing H1Z1. We kind of followed that trend, and then like I said, eventually just CS became the focus.
Did you ever play Valorant when it came out?
I did play it when it came out. I think it got like, I don't remember, I think there's like the beta access keys or whatever. I got one of those, played it for a little while. Not like to anything competitive, more just on like a fun capacity. I knew from like the second it came out, I was like, this game's cool, but like never really, it didn't have my attention like CS ever did.
What is it about CS that just it's everlasting?
I don't know, I feel like everybody may have like a different experience, but for me, it's the same thing with like the Wolves team that I had. For me, a lot of the reasons why we do what we do and why we wanted the project in the first place is the relationships that come along with it. For me, I grew up in a family business. And I still work in my dad's family business, so everything was always about family and creating good relationships with people, being a part of a good environment, and like in my opinion, that's what brings like passion and joy towards the game when you enjoy, who you're doing it with, and that kind of became like, I don't know, it became like a core part of me when I was playing Counter Strike all those years with like very close people to me, and that's I think what kind of drew my passion to it. And then eventually you kind of fall in love with like the tactical aspect as well, with like the mind aspect of it. And it kind of like, even the other day, I'm trying to explain this to my dad, like the Counter Strike aspect, like in Counter Strike, different aspects, like the you gotta like manage your economy, you gotta try and do like pressure different sides of the map, stuff like that. All of those things led me to like really love that because I'm the type of person who always loved being like, I love trivia, I love like being quizzed, I love kind of like, I always kind of like want to know the answers to everything, and I think Counter Strike is kind of like a game of like chance, and also like a game of like, you kind of need to know some of the correct answers, and I think that like in my mind is like a good challenge for me, and I really like that, and I think that's, again, on top of like the environment aspect, is what really draws me to it. But also I think um it could be a huge aspect for like other people too. I think a big aspect of why a lot of people play the game is because they really just enjoy what the game is, how it's broken down, and kind of everything about it, and who you get to play with. So for me, I think that's kind of why it's everlasting, because it has a different level or a different layer of, you know, team that you're like teamwork that you need, that some other games you don't really get that experience. For example, if you want to queue up like a COD game, you could have a COD game with random people. They don't have that same like. You're not talking to each other really. You're not doing these things. Maybe in Search and Destroy, maybe, but like you're not really doing those things. But in CS, from just day one, if you queued up a game, that teamwork aspect is already there. Like that team aspect is already there, and that's something I think that you can't. Well, I never really experimented with the competitive scene in other games, so I can't really comment on it. But for me in CS, that's what I feel like it had as an edge over other things. And not only that, like just the competitive aspect, the huge viewership, stuff like that. I think that makes people excited.
Yeah, all of that and the history that goes into the
Yeah.
game too. I mean, it's got that longevity. That's why, like, no matter what's going on with Counter Strike, I'm like, Counter Strike's gonna be eternal. Like, this is a game that nobody's just gonna stop playing, even if like there's weird stuff going on with the like tier one competitive scene,
Yeah.
right? And I think what you said too is really interesting about like how like there's kind of this constant trivia aspect of like needing to know what's happening and having these answers as you play the rounds. And that leads into why it's like it it's infinite, is because that trivia is always updating and always new, and it changes each round, and
Yeah, exactly.
it's not always the same set of trivia moment to moment. And so I think that's a really interesting
It's
way
it's
of looking
it's
at the game.
it's consistently a new challenge, and like for me, I like to challenge myself, and I like to be competitive. So being that kind of having that a part of me, like it makes me want to try and like do the impossible, which is by finding those answers and by like uh, being like one step ahead, for example, or knowing what the correct answers is.
Yeah. Well, and when did you start going to lands?
I started
I
my
don't have any
first
more with
one.
that
I
question.
My first one, I think it was 2019. It was like GXCon. I think it was like right outside DC. It was actually in Virginia, technically. That was my first one that I went to. Then I started going to a couple other ones. I went to like maybe one frag in between, but then I went to Long Island. It was called like it was like pretty far. It was like in Long Island. It was in Long Island, and then from there just started going to more and more frags. And for the beginning, it was like, hopefully I get an HLTV profile. The goal is to make playoffs, do that kind of stuff. So from there, and then I started making friends in the industry. Like Kojo is a good friend of mine, and Louis are really good friends of mine. Those types of people, and even some like the Chicken Coop guys, really good friends of mine. And they were really like my first true like land where I really went there to like compete. I play with like MDS Gabe, Kojo, play with Wreckmeister, stuff like that. And those some good guys, some good shooters, stuff like that. And that really like pushed my drive. Like, oh, these guys are good. I want to kind of compete like they do, And then that's really what turned on. Like, okay, I'm gonna go to every freaking land I could possibly go to. Not only because the environment and the people are just awesome, but also just that thrill of the competition is really cool.
That's how I felt after going to my first LAN last year. Kansas City was my first LAN where I met you there, and
Yeah.
it was that it's that magical environment of being surrounded by the best Counter-Strike players in your region. And we can all sit here and talk about how they compare to tier one players and EU and this, that, and the other thing. They are the best players in our country that come over that go to these
Yeah.
events. And when you're there, you're with players that like seriously consume and think about this game in a different way. And it like
Yeah.
being around that hunger and that drive every single time I go to LAN. I'm not even playing in LAN. Every single time I go to LAN, though, I come back fired up for Counter
Yeah.
Strike because it's just such an amazing effect. Like LAN is, yeah. Do you? I mean, I guess you probably have a different like the perspective of an org owner as well that goes into this, but like how important do you feel like online is compared to LAN these days? Like, are online tournaments kind of becoming a thing of the past at this point, or
I don't know if
what?
I would say that, but I think that like the land buffs are just like massive. Online tournaments are still really important because like you win one, especially in Europe. Maybe in NA, I think it'd be a different story, but in Europe, you have like Galaxy Battle, Windline, CCT, like all these tournaments are like $50,000 prize pools. Where if you get invited to those and you could pull off one of those wins, like you look at Ecstatic, for example. Ecstatic jumped up to like 30 in the world, but because they won like 2 CCTs or something like that, or they won CCT in another tournament. So you could definitely climb up that way, and like getting the prize money, stuff like that is, I think, a bonus. But then you could also look on the contrary. Yeah, if you look up like a team, they're not a team anymore. Rhino, they were a team. You look up, they won 3 small Portuguese lands that I think they got like maybe less than $10,000 in prize money, and it moved them up like 100 and something spots in VRS, and they were like top 60 for a period of time. But like they didn't really play any competition higher than like another Portuguese team who was like a, like a top 100 team, which is still like a good team, but like they didn't have to play the number 30s, number 40s, number 50s in the world to actually get to that level. So I think that's what makes LAN a little bit different and makes it more important, because you saw like Blue Jays when they had like the ball score, when they won the frag, when they won the last one, the block, they moved up a bunch in VRS and stuff like that. But I think in the VRS environment, you could see, just look at the team list, how important it is, because not only is it a huge opportunity, but you're also missing out on a lot, because these teams are all going to gain a lot by going there as long as they perform as they should. So you're missing out a lot. And also, if you're a lesser ranked team and you could beat these teams on LAN, you're going to gain a whole bunch of VRS. I'm not sure if you saw that one guy posted on Twitter, like every team's potential VRS gain at Philadelphia. It's like the gain is just super ginormous, where you don't quite get the same feel on online, but like to a certain extent, and to your point, I do think in NA, LAN is super important, but also for these European teams, I think it's going to become like the new thing, because if you win, you gain a whole bunch, and then you're going to lose out if you don't take part. But also, it's hard to find tournaments where you can guarantee yourself to play these teams as well. Like we just played CCT, the Wolves did, and then you might play number 100, number 110, 120 in VRS, which if you win, not a huge mover, but if you lose a whole bunch of points. So playing in frags, stuff like that, you get a lot of the opportunity to play these higher ranked teams, which then gives you the opportunity. But I do think the system is slightly like, it's kind of unfair, because the people with more money are going to be able to succeed more. Like the Fanatics and stuff like that of the world, and they're going to have the opportunity to participate in all these things. Like you saw Big Clan sign up for the NA thing, the Atlanta qualifier for Pro League. Like we were,
that to me alone, like, and sorry to interrupt you, but that specifically is like, that should be region locked. That should be that is a qualification for pro qualifier. That is not your home. That is not your homegrown, LAN being an open tournament. That's a qualifier for a spot, and it's specifically for this region, but it could go like it's.
What makes it really hard
seems backwards
is because those lands, in my opinion, I think they should be region locked, but like you have to kind of take advantage of the fact that they're not. Like it's kind of really hard, because in Europe, if you're a new team, or if you're even just a team trying to compete and trying to move up, any open qualifier for any kind of tournaments is riddled with cheaters. It's really bad. A lot of the teams even participating in CCT have like countless accusations against them, like to the point where I'm actually in like a WhatsApp group with probably 40 other different either like owners, leaders, or management staff of like organizations, where they're trying to like put together stuff towards Valve to try and reach out to them and be like, guys, you have to do something about this, because all these teams trying to compete, they're stuck because you just get beat by cheaters, or it's like you play a team, you beat them 13-1 one day, and then the next time you play them, it's like they're the best team you ever played, and it's super prominent enough where all these teams have a really bad problem with it. So now I think even that is going to push these teams more to go to Philadelphia, go to these things, because they actually need to, and they can play in a clean environment where everybody's on the same kind of level playing field, where they know that their talent and skill could win them that tournament, but they play online, you can't really say for sure. It's fun. Like I'm even seeing now, like all these tournaments are inviting us. But like I don't think Fnatic saw those guys care because like might be more money they can get, but they're not going to have the same opportunity. And like any of those open tournaments, like who really knows what can happen? You know, they're all kind of like
They're sketchy.
yeah.
The online stuff right now is it's sketchy to say the
Well,
least. Like
I do respect what like I mean ECL for like the ECL cups and like Blast and some of those things when we had some of those tournaments. Like I had to quite literally put like a table right here with my camera like pointing directly at my monitor so they can see everything that way. So it's not just a face cam. That kind of stuff I think is good changes and
that's good.
yeah, and it can help eliminate it. But like you see like some of it's kind of weird. Like by the way, they're good guys, but like you saw like I was watching CCT or whatever it was, one of the tournaments, maybe Dust 2 the other day, and NRG was playing, and like George's webcam is like way back there. It's like it doesn't really like not George is a good guy. He's not cheating or anything like that, but like you know what I mean by
Right.
the it's like as far if you're talking about like that's not like maybe they don't have like integrity cams, that just might be like a player cam, but like a lot even the ECL things though, they're not like a public stream. It's just like just for the admins where it's just behind you. I think that stuff is really good to have because you know, I mean, especially a lot. And there was a couple NA people who were a little sus, especially. I don't think I need to name anybody, but like, um, I think,
We saw all the recent drama this year.
yeah. So, like, I think that is an important aspect, but it's not as prevalent in NA as it is in U, like the cheater problem. But to kind of make a long story short, I do think now, based on how teams have been like skyrocketed up off lands, I think everybody's going to try and go. I think Brazil is doing like a Fragadelphia equivalent too. They're trying to like create their own thing. So I think the Brazilian teams are going to get a big boost.
I think we're gonna see a big boom in land tournaments. Like that's where the money needs to be pouring into. We've been pouring it into big tier 1 production events over the last like 10-15 years, which of course have been a lot of fun to watch. I'm sure it's great for the pros and all the amenities that they get and everything, but like that's not what gaming is about. Like like what the experience you get at a Fragadelphia event, especially one of the big ones, that's what gaming is about. It's going down there fighting for your life through the tournament, but having a fucking blast with all the people throughout that experience, right? And we need more of those events to be popping up because you could probably put on four or five of those events if for the same cost of one of those big giant tier 1 events.
You could definitely put them on, but the problem is that it just favors the teams with more money. Like especially like these NA teams, like asking them to output any organization, and let alone like organization, let alone just like 5 guys, like a team that's not signed, or maybe you have some of these teams who don't pay for everything for the players, especially in NA. You're asking that organization to pay 6-7 grand maybe to travel to get this team to travel to like a 10K event. You know, it's like the organization has no way to make any money from it. So it's like the problem is you need to have like a big bankroll to kind of make that happen, and that kind of doesn't necessarily favor these like just your traditional advanced team or traditional lower tier ECL team in NA, because not everybody has, say, just as an individual player, $800, $1,000 to travel to a LAN event every month and a half. You know, like not everybody has that ability, so that makes it really hard. And that's the problem with like the open format, because like you get some of these teams like going to frag. Like I'm gonna be honest with you, like going to Blocktober with Mike when we originally signed up, it's like it's not you can't really have too high of expectations there, man. Like you're going against Saw, you're going against Fnatic, you're going against Big, you're going against these teams. Like I try and be a realistic person. Like you got no chance to win. You know, you got no chance. So that's kind of the problem with VRS, because it eliminates the regional aspect of it. It's like you saw like the thing where Europe wanted to have a closed event, but then like Complexity was trying to go, but they had to let Complexity go because otherwise they would strip the VRS from it. So I think that kind of makes it hard. but it makes it hard for these NA teams to gain VRS because if Big and Fnatic, and I'm sure they're great people. I'm sure I have nothing against the players or anything like that, and I can't fault the organizations at all because I'm doing the same thing, sending Wolves there. I think it's you got to take advantage of the opportunity that's there, but I think the region cap would help because then you actually allow these NA teams to gain VRS. But I do think that there is like a flip side of the coin though, where you may have had scenarios where like if it's only NA, I think this is probably like the lesser evil though. Like if it's only NA, you're gonna have these NA teams gain a bunch of VRS, but then like who knows if they're actually good enough to compete against the EU teams. But I think here you actually get the opportunity to play against these EU teams, maybe learn a few things, stuff like that. Maybe even get some good scrims or anything like that. I think that is a good aspect actually of having them be here because you get that, can you actually compete against that level of CS? And that's a good thing for you to know. But again, them coming here though takes the opportunity for you to get to their level as far as like VRS goes away, unless you're truly like good enough to compete with them. But if you were good enough to compete with them and you're good enough to be top 50 VRS, then you should be able to, compete with them from the get-go. But I think that's what kind of is like a double-edged sword because you kind of are like unhappy either way. But I think it's tough, and I wish it was region cap because I even the Atlanta thing, like I was like, boys, we should probably go to this. There's nobody going, and now Big Clan's gonna go, and now it's guaranteed no team's gonna sign up to go play Big Clan and just get smoked in a 2-0, and so sorry, didn't make pro league,
Yeah, and especially with like all the computer rentals and stuff that you would need to get for going to that,
it favors the people that have the investors, the backing, exactly.
Right now it certainly does favor the people with the money to throw at the event as it figures itself out. But I do think that reinforces what I was saying as well as to why there should be more of these events because I feel like more of these events happening makes it so that they're not nearly as expensive. Like if there's more sponsorship money flowing into these events, so it's not nearly as much of a cost to players to go to them, or they're maybe closer, like there's more around our country to where, Frag is only having to worry about the Northeast region, then there's somebody worrying about the Southeast and the Midwest and the Northwest and the Southwest.
That I would love because then like EU teams couldn't physically go to all of them.
Exactly.
They can go to
they
a
can
single
only do
one
this because there's only Frag right now.
Yeah, but like they could definitely do it. But if there's different types and different layers of tournaments, like, even just myself, because I could speak to the topic, we have invites to like CCT, Winline, stuff like that. Why would I want to sacrifice that $50,000 tournament now? Like, we have a good opportunity there. But it's like you have one Frag that kind of falls into place here. It's often, but not often enough to like deter me from some of the events. That kind of makes like a big difference. And also, this specific event was always going to be juiced up, being it was right before the major deadline. It was always going to be, yeah.
That's a big part of it that like I think even some of the Frag guys have talked about is like this only looks like this is the new standard for Frag event because this is the weekend before, this is the weekend of the cutoff. Like after that weekend, that's the cutoff for any VRS points for the next major. The next Frag event 10K they put on after that in November, December, it will be back to probably all NA teams again. So
a couple Brazilian
that is
teams,
something. Yeah, that's something to keep in mind. But it's or who knows? Maybe EU is going to start coming over to NA more often, and it would actually be good for our region because we would get LAN experience playing against these guys.
I agree with that.
Let me ask you this. I'm going to switch subjects just kind of a little bit. We've talked about it a tiny bit. But how did you come to tell us the story of how you came to own the Copenhagen Wolves along with your brothers?
Yeah, so it actually like originally dates back to 2019. So in 2019, I reached out to somebody by the name of JLK, Jacob Christensen. He's a great person. He really helped me out a lot in the beginning of the process, but he's a bit of a legend. Like, he's a savage. He started Copenhagen Wolves. After Copenhagen Wolves, he founded Astralis. So he was the original like founder of Astralis. And then if you remember back in the day, they used to call him like Blastralis or whatever because he was one of the founders of Blast as well. Like he is awesome, and I'm just really fortunate enough that he replies to his Twitter DMs. So I inquired in 2019 about it. I was a 19-year-old kid, just like, hey, would you ever sell it? And he kind of was like, oh, I would think about it. And he was kind of joking. He's like, when you sell your baby, like, cause that was like his first original project, stuff like that. Then that kind of like fizzled out. I was like, oh, maybe I'll make you an offer. And then like, I kind of got a little scared. I was like, I'm a 19-year-old kid. I have no clue what to even offer this guy for this business. And then it becomes 2023. At the end of 2023, early December, I mean mid-December, I reach out to him again, and I just say, hey, I know I reached out to you a couple years ago, but if you would sell Wolves, here's what I would offer you. And then, quite literally, within 4 days, I had sent him a wire, and we had lawyers write up the agreement, and then the Wolves were mine. I couldn't even like. It seems so fake with how fast it came, but it was literally within 4 days, where the conversation, negotiation, transfer, and documents were all signed, and then I became the owner. That's kind of all it was. Then after that, I went up to my brothers. Mainly, my oldest brother was gonna do it with us, but then he kind of like backed out of it, so it just became me and my brother Jake. And I was like, I just told them, guys, like, because they were always into like CS and like followed it a little bit. My one brother is older; he's 39, but my brother Jake is 28. And he was always into CS too. He always followed CS, and I was like, hey, I bought this organization, and he definitely took a liking to it. And he was like, hey, if you look for anybody that would want to be like an investor or partner in this, I would definitely love to do it. So it kind of came together like that. So then when we put all like the formation documents and kind of transferred everything in from like the previous ownership into like our new kind of company, Jake became my brother Jake became 40% owner of Wolf. So now we do it together. So now it's our project. And that's really how like the project kind of transitioned and it became, we kind of like, I can't really explain to you. It's actually very important to me to have within like our family, because I worked with my dad in the summers with my entire family, both my brothers included, since I was 14. Every summer I work with my dad, and I still work with my dad to today in like a family company. So being able to do this kind of like with my family is a really big bonus. But the story is not as like extreme or exciting or anything like that. It was really just like as simple and a little bit wild that it kind of can happen so quickly, but it's exactly how it happened.
Well, I mean, a young man took a risk and put himself out there, and now you get to do that with your brother, and that's I think that's really fucking cool, getting to
Yeah, I think like
do something like that.
that's something my dad kind of like instilled in me as like a kid, like if you don't ask, you never know what, like you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, you never know. Somebody might be willing to do something. Maybe a business opportunity or something just kind of lies ahead of you, but you're too scared to take the opportunity. You'll never even know if it was truly there.
I think that's beautiful. Well, and what do you do? Because the Wolves are they considered tier 1 or tier 2 in EU
No,
right now? Tier
I'd
2.
definitely say tier 2. Um,
What do you do as an org owner for like how much
so like
how involved are you?
so we are like so we are very involved, but I would say very involved in specific aspects. As far as Counter-Strike is involved, as far as like the coaching, anything like that, we don't even touch that at all. But we are very involved, very close relationship. When we scout players and when they meet with us, the biggest aspect is they have to be willing to be a part of like our family. If they're not willing to be a part of our family and a part of like what we call like our pack, then to be quite frank, like we don't want you here. We want somebody who's gonna want to build something great and be a part of like a family and be. We're all going to be very close. Like a lot of the players, like Tapeware and Balani, like we'll send Instagram DMs to each other. We'll just BS play some Face It. We'll play MM. We'll talk in TeamSpeak together, just stuff like that. We're very close to the players. Very good relationship. We're I would say highly active in the team compared to a lot of other owners. All I could say as far as like other owners go, like I think a lot of NA owners, stuff like that, are very involved. When you get to a lot of like the big EU teams, the ownership is more of like they're kind of more in like the background because you have managers, you have stuff like that who are kind of like do everything. But me and Jake almost act as like the managers of the team as well. So we have the team, we have our coaching staff, and we're currently on the hunt for another assistant coach because Metasport had bought our previous assistant coach from us. But so we're currently searching for a new assistant coach right now. But we're active in like the player search, the scouting, the team building, team bonding, the team environment, but not active at all as far as like gameplay and stuff like that.
I think that's probably the right way to do it as an owner, right? Is like try to create the culture of your brand that you want to and be involved where you know what's happening, but like and the people that are working for you know that you're a message away or like a phone call away or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
But letting the players actually play the game and figure that out for themselves, like I think that's like, you're empowering them to do the best that they can.
Yeah, we don't put like expectations on players, anything like that. Like we let the coaching staff, everything handle that. The only thing that we have ever asked the players is that they just work hard and do their best and do what they're asked from the coaching staff. The main reason for that is because when you set serious expectations on these players, like it's good to have goals, but when you say you guys need to be top 50, you guys need to be top 100, these things, it applies an unnecessary pressure. And when you just ask the players to do the work that is asked of them and just to work hard and just have respect for the organization they're playing for, that progress and the results will come because they're putting the work that would be necessary to get to those same goals anyway. So we never ask anything of our players aside from just be a good, representee of our organization and just work hard. I think with those two aspects, I think the opportunity and room for growth is really strong.
Well, and with the way VRS works, you guys definitely have a shot at showing up at a major at some point. So
that's the goal.
I think that's really exciting. Well, let's go back to some NA stuff here. We discussed some of the problems right now that beguile and North American Counter-Strike. What do you think some of the solutions that need to be put in place are?
I just think if there was more tournament funding here, it would be better. I will say the previous CCT admins are great people. Like some of the ones, like, so basically the way it works is like CCT will hire like some kind of tournament organizer to manage their tournament for them. I think it's like Grid Esports is like the big kahuna. And to my understanding, from what I was told by some of the previous admins, is that you had a lot of NA teams almost being like disrespectful, not showing up. You saw what happened even like in the Dust 2 stuff. Like I think one of the teams like didn't show up or something like that. Like, or some teams, even ECL, like just like forfeit randomly. You have like those kind of things, but they do this in like CCT, and these tournament organizers are like, these people don't respect the fact that we're putting on tournaments here. We're not exactly keen to do this. This is why South America has 8 tournaments. This is why EU has 20 tournaments, and this is why NA has 4 CCT tournaments, And NA certainly has the viewership. You see every time there's a couple thousand people watching. I would even venture to say maybe it gets more than some of like the South American games, but it has the viewership and potential because you're putting games on at 9 p.m. At 9 p.m. there's nothing else going on. That's stuff people want to watch. Like people want to watch CS, they want to do that. So I think
prime time.
The viewership will be there. Oh yeah, like, I can't even tell you back in the day, like when when like the OG like Pro League was going on, where you have like the games, like the NA games, you put watching E United in my bed at like 11 p.m. playing and whatever. Like that was great. That was like one of my favorite things to do. But I think the viewership is there, but you just need the tournament organizers to see the vision of them in NA, like because if they can get NA as part of the marketplace, then you give yourself an opportunity to actually gain VRS in a true, genuine environment. You know, it's not going to be saturated with EU teams or anything like that. It's going to be just pure NA versus NA. But now you have it as part of like you have CCT, which is VRS based only. You can't get invites. There's no closed qualifier for it. Like in NA, there's no closed qualifier. In Europe, you have like a closed qualifier, which they invite like higher ranked EU teams, and then you could play in the closed qualifier to make the main event. There's a lot more opportunity, and there's also more tournaments in EU that you could play qualifiers to qualify to. But we have none of that. I mean, we have Thunderpick and CCT come here, which I'm super glad they did. Mythic does I think Mythic does a really good job with like the prize pick stuff. But it's really hard for teams because since it's all VRS based, it's like you qualify for the tournament to play M80. You know, it's like it's kind of like a tricky thing. But I think the more tournaments you can have here, the more opportunity you can have to grow. That's why I think Jeff's doing a good job with Dust 2, because Dust 2 being that it's like not single elimination or something like that, you actually gives you opportunity, because if you're the lowest rated seed here, you're going to come and play M80, get smacked, and then it's like, well, shoot, what the hell do I do now? Like, we're out of the tournament. But now things like Dust 2, CCT, Thunderpick, they offer like a group stage where it's like the EU CCT, you could play up to like 5 games and go 3-2, 2-3 in order to actually make it. And that's a huge opportunity for these teams to play, be seen, get a lot of matches, get some traction, stuff like that. So I think the more HLTV coverage we can get, like even like the Big L at Frags, I feel like those things could be freaking HLTV cover, especially like when you get later, because look at the one that we just had in Windsor. You have like top 120 teams playing in there and competing for that. Like those are things where you have not only a tournament that is more prize money than I guarantee you some of like the HLTV like sub tournaments that are on there, like the Portuguese ones, the Mongolian ones, the Kazakh ones that are like $1,000, $2,000. You have the Big L, which is actually more prize money than that, with better ranked teams than that, but it's not getting HLTV coverage. So why it's not getting covered, I don't even want to begin to like speculate, because I genuinely have no idea. But anything you can get like that can get coverage. For example, ESCA Advanced. ESCA Advanced in Europe, the entire freaking thing is covered. In NA, it's like top 8 teams get coverage or something like that.
Yeah, the like last couple matches of
but
playoffs
I understand, because I understand some of it, because like in EU Advanced, you have teams like Sashi and Bait maybe, and you have like the old like Mal's NXT guys, stuff like that. You have really big teams in there. Like you have teams that are in the top 100. Totally get that aspect of it, but like
right.
But you need to have some kind of scale that gives NA the opportunity to actually showcase themselves. You know, you'd have, if more of these advanced games were covered, you'd have a higher percentage of teams playing in advance as well. You're going to have, like, you'd probably have the wild cards and stuff like that of the world maybe playing in it, especially if they're going to get more HLTV coverage, VRS based games, and that allows more competition to want to come into the environment. Because right now, where are you going to start if you want to VRS? Let's just say you're a new organization. You got, let's just say, like, I don't know, let's take the Sportsbet Expert team. They're a good team. They just got Rec. They have, they got Trojan. They have Evan.
Yes, let's talk about them, please.
So, like,
that's the team I've got my eyes on right now.
So, like, they're a good team. And, like, Freshie is a great guy. I love Adam. He's a really good guy. And OG Wizard is a great guy. Like, they have a really good team on paper. But my question is, where the frick are they going to get VRS? Like, you have to go to Frags to get VRS now. But then you're going to go to Frag, you're going to get the EU teams. Obviously, you can get some delayed gratification where if you were to, like, go to maybe, like, the Frag that takes place after Blocktober, so you can definitely get some VRS at those events. Playing advanced, which they are, they definitely have the ability to, like, win it or get close to winning it. But, like, they're not even close to scratching the surface of like an ECL spot. You know, they need to go through the Elite Cup, or they need to win advance, or do one of these things in order to even get into a position where then they can earn VRS as a core. And when you think about this even larger as like, they have somebody like Rec on the team, you know, like Rec is a really good player. You know, they have, that's going to be something where they're investing a lot of money in good players. But you run into the issue in Europe though, where it's like you can get all the good players you want on a team. You can get freaking 5 insane players, but travel. You saw with NIP even when they first started, they stayed in like the 80s, 90s, and VRS for a long time until Frag, because you go against 5 freaking Russian guys, they all gonna shoot as like they're gonna shoot super freaking hard, and it's hard to beat those guys. Like it's actually really hard to beat those guys, especially they're even. I mean, anybody can be any top 100 team in Europe. They're gonna shoot pretty hard. If they got there, they're gonna shoot pretty hard, and they're gonna be tough to beat. They're gonna play you pretty tough. So that's what makes it really hard to be a new team and kind of gain VRS. It makes it really difficult for like teams like Sportsbet Experts, stuff like that, to gain VRS. Now, are they definitely good enough to like win one of the Elite Cups and then qualify for ECL that way? Definitely. They're definitely good enough to do that and gain events, but there's just not really enough teams, or not really enough like tournaments for them to even get on like on the map. So they have, it's like it's only a select few pathways that they even have to even participate. I mean, they could probably qualify for like the prize picks and then get VR and start getting VRS that way, or get games on HLTV. But then it makes it hard. Like I said, it makes it hard because you're playing M80 every single time you come out of the open qualifier.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot. There's a lot of stuff going on. I think that obviously it's not like a simple solution, right? Like it's a very complex thing that requires a lot of different moving pieces. But I do think that every single part of the ecosystem needs to start playing their part in that ecosystem, if that makes sense. Like what you're talking about with players in North America, they want to get the bag, they want to be a salaried player, they want to play Counter-Strike professionally. Go be a professional then. Go be somebody that is worth a brand investing in you and wanting to like have you represent their brand. Show up for tournaments on time, practice effectively, you know, do these things as a player. And then these tournament organizers will start seeing that there's a market and they need to start bringing their stuff over here. And then HLTV, more than anything, needs to stop gatekeeping like coverage of matches. Like it doesn't even matter if it's VRS or not. Start covering more matches. You guys are the Counter-Strike hub in the world that every single player, no matter what, knows about somewhere at some level. Go start covering some of, or hire some people in North America. Like something I've heard is that like they're short staffed to be able to cover North America as effectively, and that's why there's such short coverage. And it's like, then hire some North American people that are willing to like dedicate that time and energy to making sure that there's effective coverage of all these tournaments, because I can't fathom why it hurts HLTV to cover smaller tournaments as long as they're legitimate tournaments. You know what I mean?
Sure. Like I think you kind of like hit the nail on the head, because there's so many opportunities for teams and players to come here. I think the way Europe sees it, I think they see NA as like such like an attainable region. If there was like tournaments here, I think that because there's no tournaments, they feel like they can just come to Philadelphia and just take all of, like they can just go win it, take the money, and just kind of get out. But I think you are exactly right. You know, I think they're kind of gatekeeping the region. And the one thing I will say though, it's like I feel like it's hard for teams to want to invest in NA because there is no tournaments to play in. Like if you were to think about it, I am a new NA person. I got a bunch of money. Let's say I'm random. I'm John Smith. I got a bunch of money. I want to invest in an NA team. I'm from the United States. But like, how are you going to do it? And why would you want to do it? You'd want people with maybe some kind of like streaming background so you can maybe get sponsorship, stuff like that. But what upside really is there? Okay, my LAN tournaments are going to cost me a lot of money to get there, and they're full of EU teams. Then I have no CCTs that I can qualify for because I don't have VRS. I don't have VRS to qualify for Thunderpick. I don't have VRS to qualify for Dust 2, but there's 4 open tournaments. Okay, now I can qualify for that maybe. Or prize picks, I can qualify for that. So now there's only 2 tournaments I can think of. Then I have to win the advanced qualifier to even make advanced to have the opportunity to compete in these other things too. There's not that much upside as an organization coming into North America, because how are you going to progress? Like, where is the step that you can take to reach the next level, especially if you want to get like 5 up and comers, for example? It's like, where are you going to, like, where are you going to start? You know, it's that's why these people with like a whole bunch of money have like the edge, because in my opinion, it's becoming a battle of who can stay kind of like sustainable the longest. They're trying to who can kind of stay afloat the longest until you kind of get some of those lucky breaks that you need in order to actually get to a good point. That's why, unfortunately, I think a lot of these orgs are leaving. It's like I can't necessarily blame Complexity, because it's a lot of money they're putting out, and it's like, where are you going to get some of this benefit? You know, where are you going to get the, like, where are you going to get the VRS points that you need? Where are you going to get the tournaments that you need? I guarantee you they would probably stay in NA if there was multiple CCTs, multiple Thunder picks, multiple Dust 2, stuff like that, because that gives them an opportunity to play within the NA ecosystem, and then they can kind of operate like it was before, like the way it was in ECL before VRS. It's like you had some dogs in the top tier of ECL. You had some really good players. They're really good. They wanted good ranking, stuff like that, and it allowed for more of like a true NA ecosystem. But now it's like they almost want like a global ecosystem, but it favors the EU people, because in NA, if I told you I was a full-time CS player, like some random guy, they'd be like, "You do what?" You do that in Europe, it's a completely normal kind of customary thing that they have. It's almost like looked positively upon. It's not looked very positively upon in the US. Like in Europe, even some of my previous players, they coach Counter-Strike at school. It's like one of the things that they do. It's like there's such a pure love, passion, and presence of the game where people understand how big esports actually is, which I don't think has reached a lot of like the traditional North American people. And I don't think parents are nearly as supportive of it that they are in Europe. But I think we just need some coverage and some tournaments, and that would solve a lot. And I think it would really help the NA scene drive more people into it, because there's more opportunity.
Yeah, it's a complex issue. There's no doubt about it. There's a lot of complexity to it, one might say. Well, yeah, dude. There's a lot of food for thought there for everybody to chew on.
Yeah.
Well, I've only got one more question here for you, because
Yep.
I appreciate you sharing all your thoughts on VRS and the Jared story as well. But I got one last question here for you before we bow out of this thing. If you could talk to a younger version of yourself, what is some advice you would give them? It could be Counter-Strike or esports or life-related, whatever you want to talk about. This is your opportunity.
I think I would have said to don't hesitate. I think that would be my advice to myself. You know, I feel like I've had ideas or even opportunities to either reach out to people in the past to try and like move up the ranks earlier. So I feel like I kind of stayed stagnant for a while, and I feel like that is also another facet to my life. Like 2019, I could have gotten into the Wolves if I wasn't too scared to ask. You know, like that opportunity was still there, but I was too scared to ask. It took me 4 years to ask that one question, and I think that hesitation is a reason that people don't get the opportunity to do a lot of things. I think the biggest obstacle in your life is your own mind. You know, I think the hesitation and the belief that you can't do something is your biggest threat to you. I think you believing you could do something is already the best thing you can do. And just that, you know, I don't really care. I'm not going to hesitate. I'm just going to try, you know, that's how you learn. It's like, I think the biggest winners are like the losers that just kept moving forward. You know, like they lose, they learn, and they keep moving forward. But if you lose and kind of give up, saying, "Oh, I'm never going to be able to do that," then I'm telling you right now, you're never going to be able to do it. But if you believe that you can, then you'd be surprised what you could do.
I think that's beautiful. That's absolutely right. You are your own worst enemy 99% of the time, so get out of your own way.
Yeah.
That's good. All right, dude. Well, I really appreciate you coming through. I know we talked about doing this for a little while. I'm glad we
Yeah.
were able to finally record. And before, just like Hot Ones here, one last thing. This camera, this camera, this camera. If you want to let the people know what you got going on
Yeah.
and shout outs
So
and plugs, where to find you.
absolutely. So, well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Make sure you guys subscribe to his channel and like the video. But I just want to say thank you to first and foremost, because we didn't get talked about them too much, just the Take Flight guys, and for them having me, Sabe and Nello, and they're all just they're just so huge for the NA scene, what they're doing, like supporting the team, supporting and doing what they are with Take Flight, and being a part of that just makes me proud. It makes me want to like support them and do what I can for them to help grow their organization because of what they're doing in NA. But other than that, I mean, I'm just really thankful for any person who like is a fan of anything we do with Wolves, or even a fan of Take Flight or anything like that. Just super grateful for that and super excited to kind of move forward. And of course, I'm always thankful for everybody I have in my life to help me get me to where I am today.
That's beautiful. Yeah, we didn't even go into the end of Might or Take Flight. That'll be episode 2. We'll go
Let's do
into it once we see how things turn out
Yeah.
in Take Flight. But all right, dude, thanks so much for joining me, Jared, and thank you all at home for watching. That is it.
Thanks so much.